Greetings and salutations, everyone, and welcome to Let's Play Gabriel Knight, Sins of the Father. I'm Kamchak Fisko, and come join me for the first of the trilogy of Gabriel Knights.
I wonder if he has a viewpoint on this stuff.
Can you tell me anything about this?
No, I've never seen those symbols, therefore they're probably meaningless.
Really? Are you sure?
I am never wrong, Mr. Knight, therefore sure is not in my vocabulary.
Unfortunately, he's wrong about this. Let's ask him about the symbol.
Can you tell me anything about this pattern?
Wow. Interesting. Very interesting. Mind if I copy this?
Be my guest.
Great. I'll be right back.
I think it's a Veve, actually.
Here you go. You know, this is a fascinating Veve. You must tell me all about its origin.
Actually, I was hoping you'd tell me. Can you figure out anything about it from the symbols?
Well, some. That's why I wanted a copy. I want to research the design myself. Each of the symbols in the Veve represents something, a loa, a place. Where did you get this?
Have you heard of the voodoo murders?
No, you're kidding. Really? Then the voodoo is authentic. The newspapers are wrong. Boy, are they wrong.
You think this Veve is authentic, then?
Authentic? Mr. Knight, that's like asking if the Mona Lisa is a painting. Tell you what.
Damn.
I'll look into these symbols myself and see what I can learn about the sect that made this. I'll give you a call when I have more information. You are associated with the police, aren't you?
Absolutely. But I'm, undercover. You can contact me at the St. George's bookshop in the quarter.
All right. Now, I'd like to get started on this if you don't mind.
Unfortunately, I do still need to talk to you.
Your lecture was terrific.
Oh, you think so? You were snoring so loud I didn't think you'd heard it.
Mind if I pick your brain?
Not if it will get you out of my office.
Fair.
What can you tell me about voodoo?
You already sat through my lecture on the subject, Mr. Knight. Perhaps next time you could stay awake and learn something.
He deserved that.
What can you tell me about...
You already...
Okay, that's the loop.
What do you know about the voodoo murders?
Just what I read in the papers until you showed me that Veve. I wasn't interested before, but now... Yes, I'd like to figure out where these people come from and what they're up to.
So we missed the dialogue.
Some very frightening and deadly serious voodoo.
Where he would have written it off before we showed him the Veve. Crap.
What do you know about the...
I'm hoping you'll tell me more about it.
That would be the loop.
What can you tell me about New Orleans?
I find it interesting to see the occasional fragment of voodoo practices in the everyday culture of New Orleans.
What else can you tell me about New Orleans?
The Catholic Church has always dominated in New Orleans, and its imagery, in turn, has dominated New Orleans voodoo.
What else can you tell me about New Orleans?
If there's more you wish to know, perhaps you should read my books.
Plugging his own book.
Do you know anything about snakes?
I'm not a zoologist, Mr. Knight, but I know all I care to about reptiles.
So he probably only knows as much as their application to voodoo and rituals.
What can you tell me about St. John's Eve?
It's June 23rd, the feast day of St. John the Baptist. But June 23rd has been a sacred day since the earliest times. Ancient sun worshippers used to roll a flaming wheel down a hill to celebrate the sun's descent on that day.
A burning wheel? Huh. What can you tell me about St. John's Eve?
I'm not in the habit of repeating myself, Mr. Knight.
All right. That makes the loops fairly easy.
Do you have any idea what Cabri sans Coeur means?
Cabri sans Coeur. Yes, I do. It's a Haitian term, I believe. It's French, and literally translates as goat without horns.
As in a female goat?
No, as in a human sacrifice. Sacrifices in voodoo are usually of the animal variety. Chickens, bulls, goats. If the gods demand a goat without horns, it means a human being.
Damn.
What was that translation for Cabri Saint Corps again?
I'm not in the habit of repeat.
Okay, so that's the loop.
Do you know anything about Marie Laveau?
While I find the colloquial bastardizations of voodoo somewhat interesting from a sheerly intellectual point of view, there's not a lot of relation between people like Laveau and true voodoo practices.
So he's a snob that doesn't count the new evolution of voodoo in America as voodoo, even though it would be. It's its own variant, but it's still equally. He's a snob.
Do you know anything about Marie Laveau?
I'm not.
Okay, that's the loop. It makes it real easy because his loops are like, I'm not going to talk about that.
Do you know anything about animal masks?
As I said in my lecture, which I assume you actually listened to, is that animal masks, totems, are used extensively in most African voodoo religions.
So it's African voodoo that's being practiced, not New Orleans voodoo.
Do you know anything about animal masks?
I'm not in...
Yeah.
Can you tell me anything about that Veve I showed you?
I told you I would research it, Mr. Knight. When I have anything concrete, I'll let you know.
All right.
Tell me what you mean by black voodoo.
Well, like any religion, the beliefs can tend toward positive or negative ends. Can be used for good or evil. Christianity, for example, has its doppelganger, Satanism. Anytime you attempt to set up an icon to explain evil, you invite some warped mind to worship it. The same is true of voodoo. There are those who are drawn by and desire personal power from the darker, bloodier Loa.
Interesting.
Can you give me an example of black voodoo?
All right. There is a very secret, very dark cult in Haiti called the Cult de Mort, Cult of the Dead. Their primary law is Baba Nebo, Loa of the Cemetery. They practice a particularly disgusting form of necromancy, magic using the dead. They dig up corpses and use their decaying bodies for various spells and curses.
So some of the people that we'd heard from the groundskeeper are practicing or attempting to practice similar things, because he'd even seen human body parts scattered about. All right. Anything else about black
Can you
voodoo?
give me another example of black voodoo?
In tribal Africa there were, and still are, black bokors. Shamans bent towards the dark, who not only practiced necromancy, but also human sacrifice.
Is there anything else you can tell me about black voodoo?
Only that if it's being practiced in this city, none of us are safe.
That's not ominous at all.
Have you ever heard of a Schottenjäger?
I'm afraid I can't help you there, Mr. Knight.
Tell me about yourself.
All right, Mr. Knight, I'm 35, a fully tenured professor at this university, as well as a fellow at Cambridge. My doctorate was obtained at Syracuse. Yes, Syracuse, in religious studies.
Did he
I'm an
forget
agnostic, but I find human belief systems fascinating. I specialize in African religions because I grew up there. My father was a Protestant missionary. And I am heterosexual when which isn't very often. Any other questions?
No.
Fine.
I'd really like to know more about you.
There have been several articles written about me, Mr. Knight, as well as blurbs on my book jackets. If you want a biography, read.
I'd really like to know more about you.
There have been several articles.
that? Okay, yeah, so it's looped.
Tell me more about human sacrifice.
It's very rare. Most voodoo practices do not include human sacrifice as a matter of record, but it is theoretically possible if that's the gods demand. For example, one of the chants I had translated for me from a Haitian ritual was like this. Mistress Azuli, come and aid us. If a cock is demanded, we will give it. If a bull will suffice, behold it. But if a goat without horns is required for sacrifice, oh, where will we find one? Urzuli is the gentlest of Loa, so they call on her for mercy. But I have seen grown and powerful Hungan tremble before a possession by one of the more violent Loa, such as Papa Nebo. Clearly, they are afraid that something of the sort will be ordered, or that the Loa will simply take it for themselves.
Tell me more about human sacrifice.
I wouldn't dwell on it. Most voodoo sects probably haven't seen a human sacrifice for several generations.
You say that, and yet black voodoo is being practiced in the city, jackass.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, do keep in touch.
Alright, so that's all we can learn from this guy. We should probably go talk to our grandmother about Wolfgang Ritter, because he claims to be a family member.
Gabriel, come in.
Hi, Gran.
Make yourself at home, son.
Can we talk, Gran?
Of course, my boy. How can I help?
Probably ask her all these other things, even though they're not going to be relevant.
Do you know anything about snakes?
Snakes? What kind of snakes, dear?
I don't know. Local kinds?
Well, we used to get cottonmouths in the park when I was a girl, but I haven't heard of one being sighted for years. Milk snakes and garter snakes are also around these parts, but they can't hurt you.
Thanks, Gran.
Interesting. Let's see, I don't know if she'd actually know anything
Do you know
about these.
anything about Marie Laveau?
Marie Laveau. Of course! She was that voodoo woman, wasn't she? She preyed on people's fears and superstitions, is what I think. There are always those willing to take other people's money for nothing. You stay away from people like that, Gabriel.
Yes, Gran.
Wow. Talk about set in her ways.
Do you know anything about animal masks?
Why, no, dear. Do you mean Mardi Gras masks?
Never mind, Gran. Do you know anything about Veves?
What, dear?
Never mind.
Oh, we know all these new terms. We need to go talk to the other three experts on voodoo.
Do you know anything about black voodoo?
Black voodoo?
That opened my eyes.
Is that something new?
I don't think so.
I don't know much about any kind of voodoo, Gabriel.
Alright, so we need to ask about Heinz Ritter and Wolfgang Ritter.
Do you know anyone named Heinz Ritter?
Heinz Ritter? Oh, Gabriel, where did you hear that name?
I found a letter in Granddaddy's clock.
I promised I'd never tell you or your father, but I suppose it doesn't matter now.
Tell
Break
me,
your promise!
Gran.
Break your promise!
Your granddad's name was Heinz Ritter before he came to America.
Oh.
He changed it to Harrison Knight legally when he arrived.
Oh, really?
Why did Granddad change his name?
I don't know. I tried to ask him about his family, his life before America, but he didn't want to talk about it. He
For good
never
reason.
even told me about his name change. I found out one day when I saw his passport in a drawer. Since he obviously found it painful, I never questioned him about it. But I'm sure it wasn't trouble with the law.
No.
Granddad was the best man I ever knew.
No, he did way worse than being a law problem.
Didn't Granddad ever say anything about his past or his family?
Only that his family was crazy, and that he never wanted to see them again. He believed in some family curse, thought that he could spare Philip and Philip's children from what he called old nightmares. Whatever Harrison wanted to spare you, though, it cost him plenty. He never did sleep well, and he would often get a far-away, guilty look in his eyes. He was wrestling with something he thought he should be doing, someplace he thought he ought to be. I don't know how he could think that he should be anywhere but with me and our child. It's a terrible way to live.
crap, what was I going to make now? Wolfgang Ritter. Oh, he did this to shield his son and his grandson from it, our character. From the old nightmares that we still suffer from, that our dad still suffered from. The family curse. Oh, I don't know. Sins of the Father? The title of the game? Clearly, Granddad failed.
Do you know anything else about Heinz Ritter?
I've told you all I know about your granddad's past.
Alright, so let's ask about Wolfgang.
Do you know anyone named Wolfgang Ritter?
As I said, your granddad's surname was originally Ritter. I never learned much about his family, but from things he said, I always thought he had a brother back in Germany. I don't know if Wolfgang Ritter is related to your granddad or not.
Do you know anyone named Wolfgang Ritter?
Is this
I
gonna be a
don't
loop?
know what else to do.
Yeah, it's a loop. Okay. So we were able to learn about Wolfgang Ritter and the connection to our family. It literally is our family.
Well, Gran, I better get going.
All right, dear.
Which means now we should be able to convince him to actually go make that damn phone call. Alright, so we need to go talk to everybody about voodoo again, because we know some new voodoo topics.
Hi.
Alright. Dr. John clearly
Can
knows
I
more
ask
than he's
you
letting
just a
on.
few more questions?
Whatever, man.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
This is the
Dr. John, DJ, Conclave Tonight. He knows a hell of a lot more than he's letting on.
Can I ask you just a few more questions?
Yeah, back in the convo. Alright, can we push this now that we know what it means?
I found out what caprice encore means. How did you know about human sacrifice?
I never said those words, monsieur. You must have heard them from someone else.
Because he saw the photo of the crime scene, and he said Cabri Sancour, which we now know means ghost without horns, which is slang for human sacrifice. So he does know more than he's letting on.
I found out.
Okay, so that's the loop.
Do you know anything about Veves?
No, sir. Never heard of them.
He's a hoodoo practicer, so he may not know about Veves or true voodoo.
Do you know anything about black voodoo?
Black voodoo? Oh, no such thing, I tell you for sure.
Oh, there is. Alright, so he doesn't know shit. Even though we were able to corner him on the fact that he flat out said, I just looked at that. Human sacrifice. What? My brain is, Yeah, he knows how to keep his mouth shut. But we also don't
Hello,
know if he's
Dr.
not
John.
saying
Glad you could return to us,
because
Mr.
he's
Knight.
involved, or he just doesn't want to talk about shit he stumbled across during his years of hoodoo. So that's totally fair. So is there anything we
This
could actually...
is the-
You know what? I want to be an ass and show him this. I know about your messages, bitch. I'm going to throw the speed up. It's being silly.
Do these symbols mean anything to you?
No. They look like nonsense to me. Where did you get them, if I might inquire?
I saw them scribbled somewhere. Just graffiti, I guess.
I see. By the way, I forgot to warn you, Mr. Knight. The local cemeteries are quite dangerous. Muggers, vandals. I would avoid going there alone, if I were you.
Really?
And how would
Thanks for
he
the
know
advice.
the marks were from the cemetery unless he put them there? Or goes there regularly? Because I did not tell him where it was. Little fucker thinks he's being smart. Alright, asshole, let's see what you know. Or are willing
Could
to
I
tell.
ask you some more questions?
Of course. I also find our dialogue stimulating.
Alright, so...
You're sure you haven't heard the term caprice encore?
I am sure, Mr. Knight.
You seem to be far more involved in this shit than you're willing to let on there, son.
Do you know anything about Veves?
I say son, he's like 2 feet taller
I
than me.
believe they have something to do with Haitian voodoo, but that is not really my area.
Liar!
Do you know anything about Veves?
Okay, yeah, that's blue. Now you know why Kitla's spamming that one.
Do you know anything about black voodoo?
That sort of viewpoint makes my work very difficult, Mr. Knight.
I'm not implying that all voodoo is evil, but there are certain practitioners that use voodoo towards a darker end, aren't there?
No one that I am familiar with. If there are 1 or 2 ignorant believers, that is none of my concern. And I do not care to promote a Hollywood interpretation of voodoo by discussing it.
To be fair, we're not tainting actual voodoo in any way, shape, or form. We're asking about the darker elements. Pretending they don't exist doesn't make them go away. Talking about them doesn't make them worse or somehow supersede voodoo. Your viewpoint is irrational. And I don't think there's anything else to ask him. So yeah, we know he knows more than he's letting on. A lot more. He seems to be involved
Goodbye,
in
Dr.
shit.
John.
Walk carefully out there, Mr. Knight.
I'm telling you, that sounds as ominous as it does complimentary.
My personal thanks to each and every one of you for tuning in. You all are awesome viewers. Really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. It means a lot to me, and I do hope you enjoy it. You all take care of yourselves. If you want to see more of me, come to the video on the list, or stay tuned for more. Feel free to leave a comment below. Please remember to hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. In the meantime, fare thee well, everyone.